was brought up in Kota Baru. My fondest memory of my childhood was eating with my father. He was an Arab, and in those days, very traditional Arab families, daughters or wives don't eat with them, But I was exceptional. In my generation, all they think about is you marry and, But my father was pretty liberal, that I was allowed to go to school. I got a place into Kukusia. Well, at that time it was Melegas College in Kuala Lumpur, Damansara Heights. And he allowed me, both my parents allowed me to go, which was such a big thing in those days, for this Arab family letting their little girl go off on her own to study, And I think I will never forget those sort of support that I got from my father. As children, you read all those Perry Mason books, You see movies about lawyers. Sounds and looks so glamorous, So I did law. Of course, once you start doing law, you know about the professions. It's not all that glamorous after all, And I decided, no, I'm not going to practice, and instead went into teaching. My first job was, in fact, all my life it's been about teaching,
Tan Sri was my lecturer in contract law when we were in our first year at the law faculty at the University of Malaya.
It's really the interaction with people and the contribution that you can make to a person's growth. I always believe that when I touch someone, I should make a difference in their life. Sometimes in small ways, sometimes in big ways. And that gives the satisfaction. I am very proud of all my former students,
Of course, being first-year students, we were terrified, and contract law is not a very easy subject for first-year students. And then we had her as our lecturer. So in a way, we were quite afraid of her, in awe of her. After I graduated and I joined the faculty as a tutor, and then I got to know her better as a colleague and then as a friend. And later she became the dean of the law faculty, so she became my boss. She was with Maybank, and then I think she joined Bank Negara, and then subsequently she was off to United Nations. So our paths crossed now and then, but not that often. And then when the vacancy for the Vice Chancellor of university came up, and we knew that she was appointed as the first woman Vice Chancellor in the University of Malaya, that was when we met again. And so she became my boss again,
Way back in the mid-1980s, when I was a lecturer in the University of Malaya, I was at that time the Deputy Dean of the Faculty of Science, and she was the Dean of Law, and we have a monthly Senate meeting, and that's when my recollection goes to that time. When I first met her. And then of course we are not, I wouldn't say we were close friends, or but we were colleagues in the university and members of Senate during the time of Pak Ungku, actually. Prof. Ungku Aziz was the chairman of Senate. But later on, she came to the University of Malaya. I believe it's 2003, I believe. And then I was still an administrator. I was the head of the Institute of Biological Sciences, and later on I became the Dean of Science under her, actually. So we had many meetings, even meetings in the night. She had a lot on her agenda, to transform the University of Malaya at that time. So that's, how, I first came to know her, and I think later on, when she came back as the Vice Chancellor, we really got to know each other better actually. So
that was never in my vision of my life, you know. From University Malaya, at the time that I was the Dean, there was a change of the Vice Chancellor at that time. When I started, Aziz was the Vice Chancellor, and then Syed Hussein Alatas became the Vice Chancellor. And I suppose I didn't like the change very much, so I left and went to Maybank and became, I ended up as the General Manager of Human Resource in Maybank. And from Maybank, I was invited to the Central Bank, where I became Assistant Governor and did some transformation program in the Central Bank. And my work at the Central Bank was identified by United Nations, and that was how I was brought there, to also transform some of the management culture in the United Nations. I was there for 5 years plus. Kofi Annan wanted me to stay on for his whole term, but I went there without my husband. My husband was here, so he said 5 years is enough, come back, you know. So I came back, started serving Bank Negara again, and on my retirement, at that time I was, on my retirement I set up Eclif, and from that time I was shortlisted. Somebody put up my name, shortlisted. I was interviewed and was asked whether I would like to do the work, and I would be the first woman if I had accepted. And you know, I'm sure if I had refused, Malaysian women would have lynched me.
Actually, I just got to know Tan Sri when she started to be our Vice Chancellor at University of Malaya. When we first, before she came, you know, of course, the write-up in the newspaper and everything, I got very interested. Okay, Google her and see, oh, who is this lady who's coming to University of Malaya? It's a lady, you know, the first Vice Chancellor, a lady Vice Chancellor. So I was really excited and, you know, try reading about her, trying to get to know her, you know, through the writing. And then on the first meeting that we had when she was there, I think on the first week she was there, we had a meeting where she invited all the deans and all the, I was the principal of a college at that time. And also we had a meeting with her. The first time I saw her, I was thinking, wow, this lady, she have this sort of an aura where, you know, she greeted people as though she know them before. It's like all friends, you know. So that was what I find that very interesting about Tan Sri Rafiah. You know?
I was there for 2.5 years. It was very exciting period because we had to do a lot of changes. At that time, when I came in, University Malaya's ranking was sliding down, and we all had to work hard to halt the slide, you know. And we succeeded in the second year. We succeeded to halt the slide, and the ranking of University Malaya started to come up. So, of course, it wasn't my work. It was the work of everyone, you know, in the university. I had so much support from the professors, from the lecturers, you know.
When she became the Vice Chancellor at the University of Malaya, I mean, she was the first woman Vice Chancellor, but there was no anxiety, there was no, you know, in the university, people accepted her, probably being a former staff of the university, coming back as Vice Chancellor, there was not a problem.
When she became the Vice Chancellor and she wanted to, her plans for the university, the vision for the university, she actually gathered all of us together from the, not just the academic staff, but the administrative staff and the support staff as well. Discuss with them ideas, get from them, tried out her ideas, her vision, and get the feedback from them, the discussion at all levels, the faculty and the support staff, the unions and all this. So eventually when she came out with the plan, everybody had a say in the plan. So there is a sense of ownership, when the vision for the university, the plan for the university came out. So I think that is, and for people who could not be convinced, I think she tried to bring them in as well, So there is that sense of inclusiveness, and that helped a lot, because in order to run the university, where there are so many people there with advanced degrees, it's not a very easy thing to actually administer or run the university. Yes, as somebody once said, it's like herding cats,
The first thing when I went there, I had to keep in mind that I was leading a group of highly qualified people. Unlike my other previous work, where if you are the manager there, you are really the boss. This was a situation when I went in to lead my peers, So I had to keep that in mind. Being a Vice Chancellor is not like a CEO of a company, that I'm dealing with highly qualified people, highly capable people. So I had to make sure that whatever I did in University of Malaya was always with full contribution and participation from as many of the academic community as possible.
I find that working with her is very easy, because she's a person who sort of can embrace everyone into, and the good point of bringing people together, in a meeting and all that, yeah.
She heads the university, so she's chairman of our Senate meeting, and the Senate comprises of all the professors, the deans, so there's about 150 very learned people in the room, And I've noticed over the years, because I've been in University of Malaya for a long time, a lot of, I think, Vice Chancellors find it quite daunting actually to chair a Senate meeting. Because in the university, people like to talk a lot, they like to give their views, But I think Tan Sri Rafiah was very good at this, I think. She knew when to tell, a member to stop talking, give others an opportunity to talk. That's something that is difficult. I think many people don't realize how difficult it is actually.
I felt a bit stifled was the fact that in Malaysia, generally, there isn't autonomy for universities. That is really stifling. I still believe the lack of autonomy affects the development of a university. That is perhaps one of the biggest challenges that I hope soon these will be addressed and the autonomy be given to the universities.
Tan Sri is a person who has got a lot of ideas, very interesting ideas. And I find that while she has got her views, her ideas about things and how to do things, she is a person who likes to be inclusive. She likes to get views of the people around her. She listens. She consults, She would discuss the idea with people. She would listen to any alternate views and so on. And after taking all this, then she will make her decision, although she has her own ideas about things.
I think in Malaysia, the government has encouraged a lot of development of teaching and learning. Though I think with our school education, there is still a lot to be addressed. I know the government says they're addressing it and all that, but I get very impatient, because I've been recruiting staff before this job. And it's been frustrating when you get students with degrees who only know their subject matter and nothing else, you know. And that's not being educated to me.
Tan Sri has enormous energy, you know. I mean, it was amazing. I remember we had meetings that went on past midnight, you know. And because, you know, it's been a long day, we were all very tired, you know. Then I turned around and looked at her. She was still, you know, she looked as though she was able to go on for a few more hours when we were all wilting, you know, and dying to go to bed. And I said, what is wrong with her? You know, we're all so tired, and why is she carrying on, you know? But I believe that that is her passion. When she has a passion for it, you know, she's got the energy for it as well.
Yes, I think she knows how to get people, bring people together. You know, she's got this leadership quality which she can make people understand what she wants to do and bringing people together.
My greatest concern now is what is happening to our boys. You know, currently, 68% of undergraduates are girls. Where are the Malaysian boys? I refuse to accept that our boys are inferior to our girls, you know. But we need to address if this is happening. I hope the government will address this. Something must be done, you know, because it creates social upheaval. If the girls have to marry down, you know, it's all right if the culture accepts it. If the culture accepts that the husband do the housework and the wife goes to work and earn, then that's fine. But I think up to now, our culture don't accept that, you know. So we have to address. That's my greatest concern at the minute as a grandmother. You know, as a mother, of course, all my children are all grown up. But as a grandmother, it worries me what the future is going to be.
I don't know whether it is an issue of gender or an issue of personality. The person that you are, you know, the person that she is, you know. It may be because she's a woman, but I don't think it is solely because she's a woman that's why her leadership style is like that. I think it is her leadership style, full stop.
Oh, Malaysian women today are very lucky. They are given every opportunity to develop themselves a lot. But having said that, and I'm also happy to see Malaysian women becoming CEOs at Asia and all that. It really excites me, you know. But having said that, I'm also worried because among the Southeast Asian countries, Malaysia has got the highest number of dropouts of professional women. And that worries me very much because as a nation, you know, we're talking about becoming a developed nation and all that. We cannot have, we cannot do without the contribution of every of our manpower, man or woman. You know, our human capital must be fully utilized at the right level. And as long as we are getting these dropouts because women feel they cannot continue because there's the children or there's the old folks. So I think as a nation, we need to address this. How do we keep our women who are highly qualified? Our women are the most qualified. How do we keep them contributing to nation building? My message is women should not try to be superwoman. The important thing is to spend your time developing your children's mind. You know, other physical things, that one you can get other people to do, because the other physical things do not affect their mental development, does not affect their values. You know, but spending time talking to them, discussing with them is very important.
She's also a very warm person, you know. I mean, I've gone out with her so many times, you know, for meals and things like that, and it is very common for people to come up to her and then talk to her and, you know, greet her and you know, chat with her, and I have never seen her sort of just ignore the person or just turn away. You know, she will be very be involved in the conversation and all this. And sometimes, you know, we ask her, who was that? I say, I have no idea who that is, you know. But she doesn't let on. She carries on as though that the person in front of her matters.
She's a person with a very good leadership skills, and someone who can make people bring people together, and I think, and she's someone very passionate about what she's doing. So I think she's the right person to be, you know, looking after the woman, empowering women, and so on. Yeah.
What I believe in very much is, whenever you're given something to do your level best. You must put everything into it. And I always tell my children that.
Well, she's now here in this ministry. I suppose she can, you know, do a lot in this ministry. I mean, where she is now. Of course, that's for those of us who are in our 60s, that question is a tough one. But you know, but I mean, she has been at the top. I mean, at Maybank before that, and then at the United Nations, the University of Malaya, and now at the this ministry. I think she has many more years. I mean, good years she can put in. I mean,
if you ask 5 years from now, anything can happen. But if all things being equal, you know, and things go well, I can see her still working. Not necessarily in the current position, or maybe still in the current position, but definitely still working, still having this passion for whatever she's doing, whatever causes she's fighting. So I actually don't see her slowing down at all. In fact, if I were to look at Tan Sri now, I see her being not very different from, say, 5-10 years ago. You know, she's still like that, you know. So I imagine she would continue for a good 10 years or so, you know. So I don't see her slowing down. I see her still doing things. And I think it is for the better of the country that she's still doing things.
You know, I started working in 1974, 15th January 1974. I've done more than my share of contributing to the nation, you know. So I hope in the next 5 years, I can have a lot more of my own time. I would like to continue sitting on boards of companies for a few more years to keep my brain alert. But I would like to have a little bit more time so I can spend more time fussing over my grandchildren. I'm sure they'll hate it.